When we went for our midterm conferences, some people were still confused about how to fill out the hyperdoc. So that's what I'm going to explain today. The first standard is RL1, which stands for reading literature. And it says to read a variety of literature within a range of complexity appropriate for grades 11 through college and career readiness. So basically ready for graduation. So what that means is that you have to be reading fictional books that are at 11th grade level or a little bit higher, not just reading things that are below your reading level. So on your hyperdoc, it has reading log, and many of you figured out to actually create the hyperlink. If you did not, you highlight the text, go to your reading log, copying your web address, and then you can either press Control K or you can hit this hyperlink button, and then that's where you can paste your web address there and then just say apply. Some students are like, how do I actually click on it? Well, when you go to this, you can't click that hyperlink, but then this button comes up and you hit this part here and that'll take you there. And that just makes things move along a lot faster, so that in the conference, when I say open up your reading log, you can just click on that instead of going through Classroom and scrolling and finding it and losing time that way. This one is RN stands for reading nonfiction. You have to read a variety of nonfiction within a range of complexity appropriate for grades 11 through college career readiness. So show me that you're reading nonfiction. Well, the monthly article is nonfiction every time. So if you're doing that, you're showing me a different variety. W1 stands for writing. So it says to write routinely over a variety of time frames for a range of tasks, purposes, and audiences. That means write regularly, write in long amounts of time, in short amount of time, and don't always write for the same reason and for the same people that are viewing this. Make it a range. It says apply reading standards, support analysis, reflection, and research by drawing evidence from literature and nonfiction texts. This is all built into the monthly genre. When you are doing a book review, you have some analysis in there. When you are doing your narrative or you are doing a free write, that probably involves some reflection. The research is probably going to be into your opinion piece and possibly some other ones depending on what genre you're choosing. But all of that is in there if you just hyperlink. For both of these, I think it would be a really good idea if you hyperlinked both for the quarter in here. So how do you do that? You could say monthly genre and say you picked a poem for the first one. And then you could do monthly genre and maybe you picked short story for the second one and go that route. W4 is a writing standard, and it says that you have to apply the writing process to plan and develop. So how are you going about brainstorming your ideas? You have to draft, show me a first draft. You have to revise, so show me somewhere where you've made some edits, rewrite, try a new approach, focus on addressing what is most significant for the purpose and audience, and then edit, which is more like proofreading. It's different than revising or rewriting, and produce and strengthen writing that is clear and coherent. So which piece do you feel like you've worked hardest on to take through all of these steps? Not something that you just wrote one time and turned it in, done. Which one have you really thought through and tried to revise and get some feedback on to rewrite? W6, A through C is demonstrate command of conventions of standard English, capitalization, punctuation, and spelling. If you have any documents where I've said like, oof, you've got some proofreading errors here, maybe you can link that one to show me how you have improved. Or if that's not a comment that I generally leave you, you can pretty much link any of them that you feel like demonstrates your knowledge of capital letters and punctuation and all of that. Now, all of these W3s are for narratives. It says write a narrative composition in a variety of forms that engage and orient the reader by setting out a problem, situation, or observation and significance, establishing one or more points of view, introducing narrative. Okay, I bolded the part that says engage and orient the reader. Basically, I'm saying show me the part that you used that orients the reader. So if I click over to my narrative, this is one that I wrote last year, I'm going to copy the first paragraph and then I can literally just paste it in here because this is what orients the reader. Now, if you feel like you have to scroll down in your narrative to like the second or third paragraph in order before you orient the reader or engage the reader, hook the reader, that might be a sign that you should rewrite. If you write narrative compositions in a variety of forms, create smooth progression of experience events. Then I could go through my narrative and look for a place where I feel like I move time smoothly or I use a transition in some way. This one says to write narrative that uses narrative techniques such as dialogue, pacing, description, reflection. You could do any of those. So if you have some dialogue, you could paste it in here. For me, description, my place where I hook the readers is also description, so I can paste that same part into there to show that I know that standard. You have to use a variety of techniques to sequence events to build on one another. So using those words like first, then, next. Maybe you have flashbacks in some way, or you move through time that you could do. Is there some paragraph where you like build up suspense in a way or anticipation and then kind of have a reveal at the end? That would work here. And then using precise words and phrases, telling details, sensory language. Like this would be some of more of that description. Put your best example of writing there for that. And then providing ending. How do you choose to close out your narrative piece? Maybe it's a final line, it could be a paragraph, you decide. For myself, if I take the last paragraph of what I wrote for my narrative, I can put that in there. And then the last two says analyze the impact of the author's choices regarding how to develop and relate elements of a story or drama. I'm going to be asking you this. So, what you need to do is look at your historical fiction and start by asking yourself, why did the characters react this way in relationship to the time period? Think about how the historical events shape the characters' reactions to things, or how they affect what the characters' choices are along the way. So it's kind of the conflict of like man versus, it's not nature, but almost like man versus society, what things are going on around in those conflicts that are part of the time period. For some of you, if you're doing a really old historical time period, it could be somebody is ill and they don't have doctors and everything. So how does that affect the character and the character's choices? If you're doing more of a historical World War II, think about the events of those things and how it plays into the storyline. So think about the setting, how the action is ordered. What is the opening event that really starts everything going, or how does the book end, and how does that event play a role into the storyline? And the last one is analyze and evaluate how an author's choices concerning how to structure specific parts of literature. Look at flashbacks. Again, look at that beginning and the ending. It kind of goes along with this, which is why I put both of these standards in here. They're both about reading literature. So we're going to have a conversation during this time. Some of you get kind of flustered, your brain freezes. So it might be helpful for you to just write out a couple of sentences about how you've been thinking about your historical fiction and what you want to say about it. Hopefully that helps give you an idea of how to use this document, and this next conference can be more helpful.